It's Chaos Creates here, and this is animation for beginners using FlipaClip. Part 1, Your Design. So let's start off by clicking the FlipaClip app. It's a brilliant app, so if you haven't already got it, then get it downloaded. It's free to use, but if you do want to use any of the special products, then you will need to pay for a subscription. So as you can see, I have got quite a few projects already, but we're going to create a new project. Now, in order to get started with your project, you're going to have to give it a name. If you don't give it a name, then you won't be able to proceed. So I'm going to call this one Fire and Ice. Next, you want to choose your background. There's a little paint icon which will show you quite an array of colours. There's block colours, so you can choose pinks or yellows or whatever you fancy. I normally go for black, or you can also go for the image icon. And this is images that you've got saved to your iPad, computer, phone, and you can use that as a background as well. So I'm going to stick with what I know, and I'm going to go for the black. So I'll select the black colour, click the tick at the top, and then you're good to go. So at the bottom is a plus sign, and this is where you can add new slides. So this is how your animation will work. You'll draw and design, and then the movements will slide along. And then you've also got the option to add a grid to help measure out what you're drawing. And then you've also got the onion, but we'll talk about that a bit later on. So there's a layers button at the bottom as well, which is quite important to know, but we'll be going through that a bit later on. Right now, we're going to look at the paint brushes and what brushes they have on offer. Now, if you're on subscription, you can have access to all the brushes. If not, then you'll have access to most of them. So there's quite a few that you can choose. I think this one's the airbrush, and that's the pink colour. So this is quite good for like a cotton candy effect or clouds. We'll also go for the rough line one as well. So I've started off quite small. If you want to make it bigger, then you can just click the icon there in the red. And then to make it bigger, you either drag from the button upwards, and if you want to make it smaller, you can drag downwards, but we'll go through that a bit later on. So yeah, as you can see, there's 3 different sizes there, and it's good to practice and just see which ones that are well suited to you, which ones you like, and what sizes. But for now, we're just going to go for the normal pen size. And I want to show you why I'm going to be using an image, because my drawing is not the greatest. So I'm going to undo that. So to select an image, you're going to go to the menu, add image, and then it should give you selection. I've already downloaded them for free off the internet earlier. And just on the right hand side as well, whenever you're cropping an image or moving an image, when you get the dotted lines around it, this shows you that you can move it, make it bigger, make it smaller. So I'm just going to add my second image, and then we're good to go. So as you can see, I'm just going to make that a bit smaller and then move that over there. I like to try and line it up with the lines on the grid so it just looks a bit more neater. So the reason why I've added these images is because I'm going to use it as sort of like a template. So when I go to the next page, there should be an outline for me to use. So this is where we'll need the onion layer on. So I'm going to go to the menu, and I'm going to select onion and turn it on. And then once it's on, when you go to the bottom and move to the next slide, you'll see that there's an outline of it that you can now draw over. So I'm going to zoom in a bit closer because I'm going to add some fine details of the flames. So I'm going to use my pen, and I want it on number 1. So we're going to drag it down to number 1. Zoom right in. And then we're going to start adding those little patterns. So it doesn't have to be perfect. We don't have to copy it exactly as it is, because flames are quite different. So you can just add little designs or as close to the image as you can possibly get it. So I'm just playing around with it here, just adding some squiggly lines here and there, just going around the patterns. And I'm using an orange colour because I know that when it comes to colouring in, I'm going to be using orange. If we've got a few yellows in there as well, so I'm going to be using a yellow line as well. So as I mentioned, it doesn't have to be perfect. You can do however you want. I've kind of gone sort of as close to the flame as possible because I want it to have that really neat effect of it looking like a flame. And what you can do as well is when you switch from slide to slide, you can actually see the outline of what it will look like without the onion layer on there. So I like to do that just to see how I'm getting on with it and if it's looking right. So I'm going to add my yellow lines now. And again, just going around making some patterns here and there. So I'm not really following a structure, I'm just sort of adding in details of what I think the flame will end up looking like, because it's all going to be coloured in at the end anyway. So I think I've spreaded them out quite well. I'll just have one more look. I think a few more at the bottom here, just to make sure that it's all even, because I haven't really got a good base yet. So just add some big ones. So there's quite a few variations in sizes and lengths just to get that real feel of the flames and what they'd look like. So now I'm going to move on to my ice cube, and I want to find the right colour to use. It's quite hard with an ice cube because it will either be white or blue, and it'll be sort of finding the right blue. So that's the exact blue that I want, but trying to find that colour might be difficult. So I'll show you what we would do. So from the colour menu, at the top you'll have an inker. If you just hover over the top, it will select the colour that you're looking for. Then there's a plus sign. If you click that, and then you can add that colour to your swatch. So now I'm going to just go around the ice cube and try and get as near enough a shape of it as I can. To be honest, it doesn't have to be perfect because an ice cube isn't perfectly shaped anyway, so you can go in with those wiggly lines and give it that more sort of realistic effect. So yeah, pretty happy with that. I think it's got a good shape to it. Again, you can check it, you can flick through the screens and just double check and make sure that it looks right to you. Yeah, that looks fine. So I'm happy with that. I'm just going to zoom out. I'm going to flick between the screens just to see. Yeah, that looks pretty good to me. So I think our next step will be colouring in. So to colour in, I'm going to add a layer. So I'm going to click on the plus sign and you'll see layer 2 come up. But what you'll need to do is drag the layer 2 to the bottom of layer 1, so it's underneath it. The reason why we do this is because if you colour in with it over the lines, it will make the lines disappear. So if you make sure that it's underneath layer 1, then you can still colour within the lines as well. So that's too big, so I'm going to make it smaller. So again, drag it all the way down until you find a size that works for you. Try a 17. Maybe try a 10. That's a bit better. So now I can colour within the lines. It will still come out of the lines, but if you use a smaller pen, then you can try and keep it as in the lines as you can. And the closer you get as well to the screen, you'll be able to see sort of like where your darker spots are, so you can just go over it very, very lightly. So I'll just colour this in. So I find as well when I get to pointy bits, I do need to sometimes change the size of my pen just to make it a bit smaller. Those sort of hard to reach areas, those corners, I'll use a number 1, and then you can get right in there, and then again get close to the screen as you can to fill in those sort of pixels. It's all trial and error really, it's just practicing and seeing what you like. I think that's the same for the different styles of brushes you can use as well. So I've gone for an airbrush here because I think it gives it more of a flame effect. So this is what it looks like once it's all coloured in, and I'm quite happy with that. So now I'm going to add a layer 3 because I want to sort of give the background a little bit more of a colour. So we're going to go for the light airbrush and we'll go for an orange colour just to give it that sort of warm glow. I'm going for the colour chart just to get a different orange to one that I've already used, and I'm gonna go all the way up here because I want a big effect. So as you can see, that glow just makes it look a bit more realistic. I do like it, but I'm not quite happy with the fact that it's taken away sort of the lines. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a yellow, like a lighter yellow, just to see if that gives it a bit more of a, yeah. So as you can see, it's brought out the lines a lot more, and you can start seeing those details now. So I think that looks a lot better, and I quite like the realism of it, but I also want to add some red flecks just so they look a bit like sparks coming off the fire. This will look really good for when we start making it into like a real burning, moving flame. So I've gone for the stipple effect and I've gone for the red colour. So as you can see, that stipple just looks like little sparks coming off the fire, which is a little bit more realistic. Right, so it's time to do the ice cube, and this one I'm not feeling too great about. So I've decided to speed this bit up just because there's going to be quite a lot of layers that need to be added. I started off with white and went around the edges with a darker blue, just because I wanted to give it that sort of realistic look. It also helped to keep referencing back to the original picture as well, just to see if there was any colours that I might have missed or any colours that I could add in. In the end, I just went round the edges with a white pen effect and then went over it with a white spray just to make it a little bit more 3D-ish. And that was my end result. So thank you very much for watching. If you've enjoyed, then like and subscribe for part 2, where I'll show you how we can put the animations together and make the flame look like it's moving and the ice cube look like it's melting. See you then.